why don't you all introduce yourselves to Olivia and Bre, and both of who graduated last May, and so most of you, I think several of you got to know Bre at least a little bit in the fall, but most of you freshmen, those of you in your second semester, you haven't met Olivia Vosburg. So why don't you guys go do a round robin? I got something to drink here. Paige, go first.
What am I supposed to say? I'm Paige. I'm a freshman. I'm an environmental bio major. That's it.
Nice to meet you, Paige.
Nice to meet
Yeah, I
you
already
too.
knew Paige, but
I guess I'm John. I'm a bio major, freshman.
Hi, John.
hi.
John's from Poughkeepsie.
We've been there.
Yeah. Anybody else? Jacqueline?
I'm a freshman and I'm a bio major.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Olivia. I graduated. I wasn't, but I went to biology.
Yeah, I'm Bre. I already graduated. Same major.
Okay. Taylor, did you go?
No. I'm Taylor. I'm a freshman and I'm a biology major.
Hi, Taylor.
Kira, did you go? Well, Kira?
I'm here.
Yeah. Olivia and Bre, you know Kira?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's plant bio, you know Kira. Oh, yeah, Olivia. Okay. All right. So, all right. Well, thanks, Bre and Olivia for coming or clicking. And so this is great. All right, here, we'll do that. Let's do this. All right, Olivia. How about you? You want to start with kind of maybe like senior year, how you approached applying to starting to search for potential jobs and then applying, how that worked?
Sure. So I was really progressive about it. I started in the fall semester looking for jobs, and I was on all different kinds of websites, Indeed, Texas A&M, USA Jobs, and just applying to everything. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do yet, and just talking to as many people as we could whenever we went on field trips or elsewhere, making connections and networking. And I don't really know where to
You had some idea of the types of work you wanted to do, didn't you?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to go into fisheries and do fishery research, be in the field. I don't really like sitting at a desk, so that was a really high priority for me. And I don't really know. Do you just want me to like tell my story?
Yeah, I don't want to put words. I mean, I'll try and like recreate some of the things I think you were going through. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. I can actually remember most of this pretty well.
Me crying in your office?
What's that?
Me crying in your office every day?
I don't think you ever actually shed tears, but yeah. So both of you, I think, would it be safe to say you found yourself in a position where, okay, you knew some things that you liked to do, but really didn't know whether it was grad school time or look for full-time employment or, you know, something that would give you some more experience and get the ball rolling, which is where a lot of undergraduates find themselves in that tail end of the program when, you know, you start to realize, oh, you know, I got to start thinking about that next step in a real sense. And both of you still thinking about graduate school at some point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're talking, you talked to some people besides me, maybe, and even others in the building about the value of going out and getting some experience beyond undergraduate before you start to kind of home in on narrow your focus for grad school.
Oh, yeah, definitely. When you're an undergrad, do as much as you can to get out in the field, even if it's outside of class, volunteer, and take every opportunity that Dr. Yorks gives you, because that all looks so awesome on your resume, and that's the thing that sticks out and makes you different from all the other people graduating all the way across the country.
I agree.
You took the initiative.
like the experience that you get through Dr. York's alone can, like that's very important. I think more than anything, the experience is very important. Like you could have like all these random jobs or whatever, but if you don't have experience in like what you want to do, then it doesn't matter. I don't know if that makes sense.
And going off that, every job is entry level when you leave undergrad,
Mm-hmm.
basically. But understand that entering a job, they want you to have basic skills. So all the backpack electrofishing and the boating experience and working with trap nets and gill nets and minnow nets and or traps, everything like that is so valuable because that's something they don't have to teach you. Everywhere you
They
go
don't
is
want to have to waste the time to teach you how to do something that you could have already known how to do if you just took hold of the opportunities that you had from Dr. York's.
You'll definitely be at the top of their grabbing list if you have that experience and the rest of the pool doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Is that somebody? I like that analogy. I've never heard that one. Is that you come up with that one, Olivia, or somebody use it that way? That's good.
Yeah, my boss calls it what's the game where you play it? It like goes by like stuffed animals and holds it up.
Yeah, I would have come up with the grabber too, but yeah, the claw. That's
Yeah,
good. I'll
because if you
remember
think about it, coming out undergrad, there is how many undergrad schools in New York times the 50 states across the country. You're all competing for the same job or the same field, and there's only so many jobs. So you're all in this little container, and the companies are in there like reaching around, seeing what's there, and they see this person with all this experience, and they're going to be trying to get you. You may be the hardest person to get, and you may be competing for multiple jobs, but that makes you very valuable.
Mm-hmm. My bosses didn't believe me that I had all the experience that I did. They like kind of asked some questions in the interview phase, like, did you really do this? Like, what exactly did you do? And then I explained it, and they're like, wow, that is not the usual.
On the phone reference, I feel it for you, Bre. They same thing with saying. I guess I shouldn't use names. I mean, because I'm recording this, but in case. Yeah, that's I got the similar. I did hear the word amazed and
Mm-hmm.
asking for clarity. Well, I mean, you could think of it as clarification, but asking for, kind of like, explaining more, how do we facilitate certain things for undergraduates. Okay. Let's see, what else? Bre, I know you had some photos and stuff ready to show us at some point, right?
Yeah, well, they're on my phone. I forgot about them until this morning at breakfast, but
Okay.
yeah.
So is that, let's say you can't get to them now?
Well, I could email them to you. They're
Okay.
kind of
Yeah,
big,
you can do that.
but
I can share the screen. I can figure that out.
I don't think my computer's good.
We were supposed to bring pictures?
No, I just took
So
videos
many pictures.
of my building. I don't have any pictures of me doing anything yet, except for we did have to take pictures of us loading the truck to prove that we were following protocol, but I haven't gotten those yet.
Livy, do you have any photos handy?
Follow my Instagram.
Mine are just literally just tours of my building. It's not anything super cool.
I don't know, maybe I can show you on my phone here. Well, I can
pull up your Instagram on a web page.
Yeah, I can do that. I just fan my whole life out. That's embarrassing.
So,
I just kind of took a video as I walked through everything while trying to stay away from the other workers so I didn't get embarrassed that I was recording little baby stuff.
Where do you work, Bre?
Tunison.
That's cool.
In Cortland. Yeah. My first day was March 23rd, but then I was potentially exposed to COVID, so then I couldn't go in for 2 weeks. And now we have it so that only 3 people are allowed on the property at a time. So I've barely been there, unfortunately, but it's cool.
Is that a full-time or is that the temporary?
Mhm. It's full-time for a year up to 2 years,
Oh, that's cool.
depending on funding. Dr. Arx, I'm trying to email them, but it's the Wi-Fi's.
Do you have access
Slow.
to? Are you on a desktop? Are you interacting with us on a laptop?
Yeah.
And can you get to them on that laptop? Like you're synced up.
Well, my laptop is the same one that went kaput during capstone, so I'm afraid to try to upload the videos while I'm in here.
Okay.
I don't think it could handle it.
I'll
I'll try to send one at a time. I'll send the cooler ones.
All right. My other window or monitor here, I'm trying to get Instagram pull up. So I can pull up Olivia's stuff, but it's being really slow. Well, let's see. How about let's go with this. How did either of you? How did you home in on what you actually did apply for and make a decision on that particular one?
Yeah,
Alright,
for me.
yeah, you can go.
So I guess I really honed in on the jobs that were outside and they were temporary. I know that's usually kind of unorthodox to like channel in on temporary jobs and not go for the full-time job, but I knew that I had this goal that I was going to work as many temporary jobs and get as much experience as I could before I made a decision on going to grad school, because I knew grad school was not something I immediately wanted to jump into because I wasn't as specialized and I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to go in for. Yes, so I was looking at temporary jobs and they were all pretty much field positions and biological science technician things. And they were all very competitive. They were all like government jobs and one was private sectors. And it was actually on a field trip with Dr. Yorks that I landed my job. So go to those field trips.
Me too.
I could talk about that.
About yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say I could elaborate on that, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have heard about the CAHO at the Oswego field station with the USGS, but you guys will probably get the opportunity to go. I was there with four other.
Hope the boat's there when you go.
Yeah, hope the boat's there. But the first time we went, it was 4 of us, and we got out there, and it was the first trip of the year, and of course, things break, and everything's a process getting going for the field season, and we had to come back, and we couldn't really go back out and do any sampling or anything. We were observers, and I took the opportunity to talk to Brian Wydell, one of the fish biologists there, and just kind of told him, like, where I was going, what I wanted to do, and that I was going to be graduating soon, and I hadn't really found an opportunity yet. And he asked me to send in my CV, everything I've done throughout undergrad and all of my specialized experiences. And about 2 days later, I had been emailing him and received phone calls from the Lake Erie Biological Station where I work now, and was emailing, had an interview, and got hired 3 days later. I don't really know. It's kind of a blur how that all happened.
So what I remember, and Olivia, you remember this too, right? Because we went up to the Oneida hatchery. You two.
Oh, yeah.
And I would send that email.
Yeah.
Olivia, I never saw anybody agonize so much. So literally had to pull over to a church parking lot and said I wasn't going to leave until Olivia replied to that email. And she did, finally.
All the good jobs come unexpected, and a lot of the times you don't apply for them, if that makes any sense. They just kind of happen because you're in the right place, you talk to the right people, you network, and people pull strings for you if they see potential.
How about you, Bre?
Did you get the emails first?
Yeah,
I sent you 3.
Bloater. Oh, 3?
Yeah. Well, I can't find the video of the young Atlantic salmon tanks, but
okay, I got the bloater. Oops, I got the bloater fry video. I'm trying to get it queued up and ready to go here.
Okay. So when I graduated, I didn't really have any idea what I wanted to do, but I knew that I probably wanted to go to grad school at some point. But then I worked 2 really, really super temporary jobs. And then I started to really think about grad school, and then waited too long, and then student loans started to come in. So I was like, well, I can't really go to grad school now because now I need to pay off these and all that. So I went to the American Fisheries Society conference in February with Dr. Yorks and a few of you guys. And then I talked to a USGS employee named Scott Schloiter, right? Is that his name, Dr. Yorks? Well,
Yeah.
actually, Dr. Yorks was talking to him,
Schluter,
and
right?
he told me,
Schluter.
yeah, Schluter. And then he told me about this job in Cortland. And for those of you that don't know, I live in Candor, and Kieran lives in Kaz, and I wanted something that was in between. And Tunison's almost perfectly in between, and it's a hatchery, and they do all these really cool experiments and everything. So he sent me the job posting, which you couldn't have found anywhere else. So if I hadn't networked at that conference, which is the only reason I went to that conference, I would not have the job that I have now, because it was not on Indeed, USA Jobs, nothing. I couldn't find it anywhere. And so I applied for the job like 12 hours before the deadline, no exaggeration. And then because the job was only open for like less than 2 weeks. So I thought that they had already had the position, whatever. I was not at all expecting to even hear back from them, because I truly didn't think that they were actually looking for anybody. And then, and it was like 4 days later, I got an email that they wanted to talk to me. And then, so we did a phone interview, and then they offered me the job at the end of that interview, after asking me, like, basically just like, is what you said on your resume true? Do you actually have all this experience? Because that's amazing. Like, we like that. And then within a few weeks, because USGS stuff is pretty complicated to get all the paperwork and everything, I was there working. So, network. What was I doing?
The about here's something I gotta get some stuff ready to show here then. Excuse me. About how would you describe the phone interview process?
Well, I was really prepared. I thought that it would be really rigorous, because like I said, I truly didn't think that because jobs, you have to post the job even if you already have somebody that you have already hired. And I thought that's what it was. So I was like, holy cow, they actually want to talk to me. Like, I could potentially be competing for this job. So I really prepared. And then the whole conversation lasted like 16 minutes. They only asked me like 4 questions. So I can't really talk about how rigorous a normal phone interview is, because it wasn't, but
I can. So most phone interviews go at least an hour in my
yeah,
experience.
that's what I was anticipating. Like, I had all my notes laid out, everything, all these questions, and didn't even need it.
I tell you, my interview for Yellowstone went 1 hour and 46 minutes. And my interview for my Alaska hatchery job went for like 2 hours.
Holy cow.
And it was so rigorous, and I was glad I was prepared. Like, when you're doing a phone interview, make sure you have your resume in front of you.
Yeah.
And you have reviewed it and you know where everything is. Make sure you've considered all the questions they could ask you and how you're going to
Mhm.
apply your experience to their job and how you're going to be valuable. Make sure that you have done the research on the place that you're applying to, the research on the people who are giving you the interview, and what their position is, what they've done, where they went to school. Just know their background and how they can help you, and just everything you could possibly think of. Make sure that you have reviewed it.
Treat it like the hardest test that you've ever taken. Like, you need to know everything that you're talking about or could be asked about. That's how I treated it.
Yeah, and you're advertising yourself. So that
Mhm.
information you're applying to you and your experience to them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And don't be too humble. Like, don't undersell yourself because you don't want to come across as arrogant or whatever. Like, they're talking to you because they want to know what you're like. And if you're like, well, I've kind of done this, but like in reality, you do that every day, then tell them that. Don't be afraid to sell yourself, because that's the whole point.
Olivia, with those phone interviews that went that length, so that was filled with questions that were canned and ready to go.
Yes, so with my my Yellowstone job for the native trout conservation that I accepted, that was basically the beginning. They asked me to spend 15 minutes talking about myself.
Like literally said, you got 15 minutes?
They said, you have 15 minutes. Tell me your story. Tell me everything that you have done in undergrad, all of your extracurricular activities in biology and outside of biology. So that's like RA stuff. And they wanted to know everything. And they wanted to know every job position I ever held and how that job applied to the job I was applying to, and all the skills that were transversable. They wanted to know what my perspective of working with me would be and what other people would say about me. And they asked me to describe and why I asked the references I did to be my references, and how I knew them, and how personable, or how, like what kind of work we did with each other. What else did they ask? So this was like all described before I had 15 minutes. So I had to like brainstorm in my head and organize this whole story. And I basically started at the first day of undergrad and went until the last day I was at my job. And then it went on to very specific questions about the job. And then it went on to questions specific about my experience that I had described earlier. And it was very rough, very vigorous.
Wow.
With my interview with Alaska, the first question they asked me was, have you ever taken apart a toilet and put it back together and understood the plumbing?
What was the answer?
I was like, no, but I could if I needed to. But it was every interview you do is going to be so different, because everyone has different values in their company and what they're looking for. And the questions they ask are going to be very similar and worded very differently.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's really intimidating, but you can't go into it like absolutely petrified, like about to puke. Like, you have to just trust in yourself that you'll be okay. Yes.
phone interviews are good too, because you can look down at your notes and you can
Mhm.
stare at a wall and look like terrified. But like
Mhm.
when you're on a video conference call, like you have to be there, like pep yourself up in the mirror before it, or do something silly, or you have to be prepared. And you have to prepare for each interview individually. You can't just prepare for like multiple interviews at once. Everyone is individual. Every job is individual.
I wonder if the age of the just audio only phone interview is now going to be over, because so many of us have very quickly had to get, haven't had to, but I mean, have made ourselves get in tune with some kind of teleconference or all the different things we call what we're doing right now.
I agree. I could totally see that.
I mean, it would seem kind of silly to not rely on this for that purpose, because body language is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that would to some extent take away what you just described, Olivia. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna be able to be madly looking at all your notes. Bree's probably got like a wall full of Post-it notes ready to look at, or something like that.
Yeah.
That's how
That's how it was.
Yeah.
I had them laid out on my entire bed, like in huge writing, so I could still see them if they were far away. And I didn't even need them, but you probably will. Don't use my phone interview as your template, because it wasn't a normal one.
Another thing that's not as common, a lot of people don't think about, but you can ask for the interview questions ahead of time. I've done that before and they've provided them, so you have time to think about them. A lot of people will be like, well, this is my interview style. I like to like last minute, like give them to you and like see how you respond to them. But a lot of people are like, okay, like she's gonna prepare for these.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's kind of, not a lot of people do that, but I've done that and it does work sometimes. And it really does help. and even just Googling typical work interview questions and just practicing before an interview and just seeing like what you can come up off the top of your head and having those ideas already.
Mm-hmm.
Did either of you, how well did some of like the mock interviews you did, like in certain classes, or did either of you take advantage of like Kate George, who when she was here, well, she's still here, but I mean, when you were here, with some of the resume interview preparation?
No, all I did was whatever we did in speech, and then I think I practiced a little bit with Kiernan, but like I think if I were looking for a more permanent job, like I truly did not think that Tennyson was looking for anything. I think I would have done more of what Olivia was doing, because that was the only place that I applied that was actually in my field like that, like besides like the frog bit stuff or whatever. But I would have.
Okay. Well, how about some questions from our muted audience here besides myself? Before I start voluntelling people, Asia.
Does
Do you
everyone
think
okay.
we should have had like more experience with like studying octoliths and stuff like that, since I see that you do that a lot, Olivia?
Can you repeat that? Wait, does everyone like know what we do like specifically?
I think only Kiernan and Kylan know what I
Do you
do.
want us to kind of explain what we do and where we are?
Sure. Do you want me to, Olivia, I have, and Bre, I have, excuse me, I've got your Instagram thing. I can move over and share that. That makes sense, do you think?
Sure.
I mean, some photos to go along. I just went back in time, Olivia, to find what I think is the first thing that's got to do with your current job. So let me get.
Yeah, well, while he's doing that, I work with the USGS at the Lake Erie Biological Station in Sandusky, Ohio. I'm a biological science technician, and I work on a 70-foot research vessel and pretty much do everything you can think of fisheries-wise on Lake Erie. So that's working with lake trout and the walleye populations, the yellow perch populations, doing benthic work, and we do a lot of phytoplankton, zooplankton, diet analysis, and fish processing. I read a lot of otoliths for age, which is the ear bone in the fish, and a lot of grass carp work. And I guess every trip's a new trip, so I'm doing new things all the time.
Okay. Am I sharing a sunset photo?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is the back of my research vessel. I work on the research vessel Muskie, and the sunsets on Lake Erie are drop dead gorgeous. Everything about being on the lake, because Lake Erie is the shallowest and most productive lake. We do crazy amounts of work compared to the other Great Lakes, and we start the day at dawn and we end in the dark. So I'm always out on the back deck. That's like my quiet time, because I work on a boat with 6 guys. I'm the only girl, and I try to find my peace and quiet during the days, and that's where I go. That's my sunset picture. And I don't know where I'm going with this.
Okay. Should I scroll? Where does this go? Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes we see some weird stuff. I stay at ports all over Lake Erie, so sometimes we're in Canada and sometimes we're in Pennsylvania, New York, and Ohio. And this is in Erie, Pennsylvania. They have like this huge thing in the summertime where they do mock ship attacks with pirates. So I catch some weird photos.
Oh.
This was my first trip out on the Muskie. This was a 7-day cruise. We did a lake trout and burbot survey with gill nets in deep water that we are working with Ontario with. And I read a lot on the boat between transits. So when I'm not working, I'm reading.
Fly tying. Am I going am I going the correct direction? I think I might be going backwards.
Yeah.
I'm going
Welcome
backwards.
to my life.
I gotta go the other direction, don't I? Oh, there we go. All right.
Oh, this was the first time I ever saw a water spout. The weather on Lake Erie changes in like 10 minutes. So saw some pretty cool storms. And that was in the middle of a gill net survey. We were pulling gill nets up when this thing was going through. Couldn't even see it was raining so hard.
Wow.
And more photos of me pulling into ports and just being on the back deck getting ready to dock. This is from the lake trout survey. If you guys don't know, lake trout used to be well, I mean, they still are native species of the Great Lakes, and we decimated their populations by taking away their spawning grounds and other predators that we introduced, and invasive species and everything that kind of went together to take away their population. So in Lake Erie, we are, I mean, all the Great Lakes, we're stocking millions and millions and millions of these fish every year. But we go around and we see how they're doing, and in over 40 years, we have still yet to see them spawning naturally. So we collect them in the gill nets, and we take pictures of them, and we process them, and I do all the aging on them, see how old they are. We do diet to see what they're eating, so I'm taking the stomachs out of them, cracking them open in the lab, and identifying the fish and the different things they're eating, and sending out their fin clips for genetics.
Sorry, did I cut you off there?
Now you're good.
There you go. Nope.
More sunsets. It's just me.
Fly fish.
Some cool spiders I find on the boat. More sunsets. So this is a cool photo. We do a lot of hypoxia work on Lake Erie and a lot of the other lakes too, because we're having this huge issue, especially with the lakes not turning over properly, and the dead zones are creating areas where the fish can no longer live throughout the summer. And we go through and we collect water samples from different, like by meter down in the water column using a seabird. So the seabird is this machine that's super cool, and we use hydraulics to drop it down. It reads turbidity, temperature, collects the water samples, and it does a bunch of cool things I can't think of at the top of my head. But on the left, you can see these are Winkler titrations, and you're seeing the different oxygen levels. So this is hypoxic. It looks like a ghost because it's not present. And then on the right's like a normal amount of oxygen with the particulate matter in there. You guys have done those in chemistry, I'm sure. That's just me being happy on the boat because that's my happy place. This is zooplankton. I collect these from late May until November. And one of the guys in my office is specialized in identifying, measuring, and counting these zooplankton, which I'm very lucky I don't get to do that. He just stares in a microscope for 9 hours a day.
Love that.
Yeah, it's so much fun. So this is the Muskie, the boat I work on. And throughout the summer, I pretty much live on this. We have a little bunk in the bottom, and like I said, I'm on the boat with 6 guys, and it's quite an adjustment living with guys all the time. But we all have this common goal, and we all get along so good. It's really nice having friends who are also coworkers, and kind of become family.
Oh. Nice.
This is our awesome walleye we found in our trawl net.
Big one.
Yeah. And sometimes Lake Erie is just so tranquil after a storm. So I just capture that. This is a really cool opportunity I got with a lady who went to grad school with my boss. She's from Florida and she works with the EPA. This is a sediment profiling sampler machine. What we do is we drop it down and gravity pushes a camera into the sediment and takes a picture, and you can see redox. You can see the different macroinvertebrates crawling around. You can see the different levels of sediment, like what's there, surface-wise, the different organisms growing, crustaceans. It's really cool. I could send you guys pictures if you wanted to see what that does. That's me fly fishing. Not work related.
I'm gonna keep scooting through, Olivia, until I find.
That's my crew. That's our boat crew.
Anybody who hasn't seen the Life Aquatic, that movie? You got the right sense of humor. If your sense of humor lines up with it, it's hilarious. All right, I think we're. Oh,
Now, this was my last time on the water before COVID hit.
oh, this.
This is our 30-foot boat. This is what we use to drop telemetry receivers in the water, which is this little receiver that works on a grid in Lake Erie for different fish species, and we track the spawning and the movement of different things happening throughout the seasons. So right now we're doing grass carp and lake trout and whitefish. So they all have little tags that we surgically put into them, into their little belly area, and we sew them in. And then every time they swim by these, there's like 3 pings that'll pick them up, and it'll tell us the exact location of that fish and how long it was there, the date, time, and everything. We can even track like when they die.
I think that might be
That was the last one.
the last one.
Oh, my job title is kind of confusing because technically it's through the USGS, but I'm employed under a USGS employee. So I'm technically a student contractor, but my actual job title is a biological science technician. And with COVID and everything going on, no one basically is allowed on the property. So all we're allowed to do is fish culture. We're not even allowed to do weight sampling to know if the smolts are ready to be stocked and everything. So eventually I will be going out to the St. Regis, which is I think a trip to the St. Lawrence, and then half of my work will be with sturgeon, and we'll do a lot of gill netting with the sturgeon to see if tunisan stocking efforts are working, and then the other half will be with Cisco and bloaters or Atlantic salmon. So this tank right here, I don't know if you can see them, but the little tiny black dots everywhere, if you play the video, you can kind of see them move around, but those are bloaters that hatched like the day before I filmed it. And there are thousands and thousands of them. There's 17 of those tanks, and I didn't even really know what a bloater was. And then I was talking to one of my coworkers, and he said that most people don't know what they are if you don't work with them. But I think they get stocked into Lake Ontario. We have 2 outdoor raceways of bloaters that are going to be stocked next week, I think. I don't know if you can really see, but there's like a part where the eggs circulate so they get enough oxygen, and then once they hatch out, they'll go into a basket, and then once they're big enough and strong enough, they'll swim out into the tank. But that's all new stuff to me. That's within the last few days.
But Bre, if I can figure out a way to slow this down quick, would that be helpful? So I know watching.
Well, it's really hard to see even in person because they're so tiny. But like, I don't know. It might, but like you can see little itty bitty black dots. Those are their eye spots. But that's really all you can see. You can barely even see the rest of their bodies.
And you're seeing pairs of eyes, right?
Yeah. Some of them, like, obviously these ones haven't grown enough to, like, weed out the ones that aren't going to make it, like the ones that have deformities or whatever. So a lot of times so we have to clean all the morts out every single day, and a lot of them will have like 2 or 3 sets of eyes, and some of them will still be alive swimming around with 4 eyes like this, and it looks
Really?
really weird. Yeah, but it's cool to see. So my job isn't super exciting yet. All I'm doing is feeding and cleaning up after fish. So, but,
Still important, Bree.
yeah,
Most of the important stuff isn't all that
yeah.
exciting to most of the world.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find. I thought I had it open here. I'm trying to just go pull up.
None of them have been to any of the hatcheries yet, have they? Except for Kylan and Matt Diet.
Many have been to the Salmon
Asia.
River hatchery.
Okay.
But
Did they see the sturgeon? Because that's what I'm excited about, is the sturgeon.
no, we did not get to the Oneida hatchery. So our plans to go up there, which would have been
Yeah, that would have been this month.
Yeah,
right?
that would have been. Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, it would have been like within the last 3 weeks. So.
Do you have the video of the sturgeon?
I am. What'd you say? Olivia?
I didn't say anything.
I asked if you have the video of the sturgeon.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and. Yeah, let me get to that.
So one of the questions that they asked me in the interview process was like basically like how big are the fish that we sample in the trap nets and the gill nets, and I told them that the biggest fish was probably walleye like my freshman year, but they asked me if I was okay with handling up to a 90-pound sturgeon, which would be humongous, and I thought that they meant by myself. And I was like, well, I could try because I know how strong they are. Because even if you hold like a little baby one, they're stronger than you'd think they were. But I'll have a whole team of people with me, and they probably won't.
For the both of you, is there anything that you guys wish you would have done or put time aside to do back whenever you guys were still undergraduates?
I wish I had done what Olivia did, and was really, ahead of it instead of graduating and being like, well, what do I do now? Because for me, it was just I was constantly procrastinating. Like, I either need to really think about grad school or I need to really think about a job, and then I would kind of sleep on it, and then all of a sudden it was July and Frogbit starting, and I still don't have a job for after Frogbit. So I would say just get an active resume, like get a really good solid resume, and then just start throwing it out there. It doesn't matter if you don't even hear back, but you can ask for feedback, like what did you see that turned me away from it or whatever. Just constantly trying to improve yourself, and I don't know, that's what I wish I would have done.
One thing I wish I did from freshman year, I did a pretty good job at it, but keep track of everything you did in a sheet somewhere, so that way you're constantly building your resume. I remember going into Dr. York's office like junior year. I'm like, I know you keep track of everything, and I had him look at my resume like 20 times. And he'd be like, oh no, you didn't put this in there, this in there, and this in there. I'm like, I totally forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
So keep a list of everything you do, small or big, because it's all going to go on your resume at some point.
Yeah, I had to search through Dr. York's Instagram to figure out when I did certain things, or like just to see if I had actually done them, because I remember talking about them, but did it actually happen? I can't remember. But definitely keep a list, because that took me a good long time to just figure out what it was that I had done and when I did it.
another thing I could add is don't just focus on the biology related things. For example, like I was an RA and I was in different clubs and different fraternity groups, because that looks really good on your resume. You spread yourself out and you've also taken on more responsibility. You've gained different communication skills, and people love to see that. They love to see that you've taken on the extra responsibility outside of your major.
They want to know that the person they're hiring is someone that they can trust to, you know, be an adult and be productive with their time. Like somebody that's not just going to sit around, you know, doing whatever outside of class. Like they want to make sure that you actually have a life and you have responsibilities outside of class.
I couldn't find the videos. I'm remembering now a lot of the video stuff. Once I get done posting it somewhere, I put it on an external hard drive, and that's sitting at home right now because I have the desktop or my office computer hard drive all filled up. But anyway, so you can see Bre here spawning walleye, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Show what we did up at the Nida hatchery.
Did you get the video of the experimental sturgeon that I showed you though?
Say again?
I sent you an email that was subjected like experimental sturgeon.
Oh, okay. Let me go back. I'll try and.
Sorry, I don't mean to.
No, that's good. Thanks, Bre. I got so many windows and trying to share and make sure it's the right spot. I'm getting confused. But you want to kind of let me rewind this, Bre, if you want to explain what's going on there.
I make the weirdest faces.
Yeah, I don't think you just don't look at my face.
What?
That was an experience. That was the day that I got a walleye stuck in my hand. And then, what's his name? Yelled at me because she was squirting eggs everywhere.
Bre, I don't have
So-
that email. All I got is that one.
Okay. That's okay. Not that exciting anyway. It's just a bunch of baby sturgeon with tags. So, we're just 2 people at a time, right? I can't remember the ratio, but there's eggs in the bottom of that bowl, and then you're just milking the milk out of the males, and then somebody's constantly stirring it with like a giant paintbrush. And then you put it down, the fish down that tube, and then somebody from Cornell, I can't remember what they were doing.
They were pin clipping to mark the year's fish.
Yeah. But we had sorted all those fish, male from female, and then unripe and ripe females. And then we got to do that.
Okay, well, I see we are at the end of class time. Any more questions for Bre or Olivia?